The people have spoken. And when you speak, we listen. You wanted more women on the podcast. We are trying to make that happen. Today's guest will make 2 female guests in a row. Does Bubba know enough women to keep his streak going? I don't know how he could, since he's a little bit awkward around the ladies. Have you ever noticed that? A lack of eye contact, almost no participation in the conversation, like he thinks he is God's gift to women or something, and that they may not be able to control themselves in his presence.
Get over yourself, dude. It's not 1999 anymore. Your high school days are over.
Yeah, okay, Jimmy, you're one to talk.
Well, I'm glad you asked. You see,
Today's guest is 100% invested in the turbulent financial markets that have us all thinking about our future. And she goes in depth about the right way and the wrong way that some financial advisors try to help their clients. You want some free inside information about 401ks, crypto, gold, or inflation? Bubba asked the expert while he's got her in the basement. Oh boy, that one didn't sound right. You see what I mean? He's cringe even when he writes about women. Yikes. Moving on. Ashlea Jones is a busy mom of 3, married to a man in law enforcement, and has a family on both sides of the Wapsie. She is just as comfortable as the underdog in corporate America as she is hunting Iowa whitetail with the guys. So, if you want to hear her story and what has her worried about the way we parent our kids today, you are in the right place. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode, which is recorded for your viewing pleasure in flawless high definition.
oh boy, my favorite.
Alright, Jimmy, that's enough out of you today. Here's your host, Bubba Seaman!
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. What is up? Welcome back to the fastest growing, best small town real life podcast on the market. Let me assure you, you are in the right place. Before we get to today's guest, and trust me, she is a good one, I have to remind everybody listening or watching, you could be doing either right now because we are trying to venture into the video market. Say hi to the camera again. This time, no mistakes, hopefully. Nice, good, clear picture. Nice, good frame rate, all that stuff. Thanks, Blake Tempest, for the tips. Appreciate that. Hopefully no audio issues because we're trying to do too much 4K, nothing like that. But before we get into the episode, you guys got to make sure and subscribe, follow, like, wherever you're listening, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. Leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or wherever you're listening. That would be great. Follow our Instagram and our Facebook. I think our social media is doing better than the podcast for some reason. I think it has to do with those football highlight videos lately. The parents and the kids like those. But go to Instagram, Facebook, check us out there. Share with all your friends on your social media. Show off your impeccable taste by sporting some of our merch. Today's guest, she's leaving with one of our signature black shirts, free just for coming on the podcast. Okay, but we also got hats, we got socks, stickers, car air fresheners, whatever Sarah gets from Team U, it just shows up all the time, okay? Send me an email at whatisuppodcast@gmail.com. Tell us what you want. We'll hook you up, I promise you. Then I want you to send me a picture of yourself wearing our awesome gear. I've got a lot of those pictures back. I throw them in different episodes from time to time, or special little videos or reels, so I'll give you some airtime if you send me a picture. And then once you've done all that, you can sit back and enjoy the show. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. Let me tell you, when women speak, I listen. And apparently so does my audience, because they've been telling me, you got to have more females on. You got to have more women on. So we have another female guest in the studio today. I first met today's guest way back shortly after the turn of the century when she was in junior high, and she was in the same class as my younger sister-in-law. She has family roots planted deep on both sides of the Wapsie, so you guys all know her husband, and their family. Now she's just another fellow Wapsie parent and wife to the shutdown genius defensive coordinator of our beloved Wapsie Valley Warriors.
I love that.
I hope he likes it. Today's guest, like myself, was initially interested in helping people through the world of corrections, parole, probation, social work, something like that, but ended up ultimately going another route. Now she's one of the best local financial advisors around. which is saying something considering our crazy, out of control, up and down, unstable markets right now. That really is saying something. Maybe you've read her monthly ads in the Fairbank Islander or the Reedland Chronicle, which to me look more like just a helpful neighbor who's writing a personal letter to everyone in the community. It doesn't really look like an ad for a business whatsoever. So, of course, I'm talking about Ashlea Jones. What is up?
Nothing much. How are you?
Doing good.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of started with me asking Cody, and like every other member of law enforcement that I've asked, they politely
shut you down.
They didn't shut me down right away. They kind of left me on the hook for a little bit and then shut me down. But then you said something to Sarah at a music in the park or something.
Yep.
And then what? I don't know what it's been. Months later, after your schedule finally. It's hard raising kids and doing things, right? You can't, when you finally get a few hours free, you better get it on the calendar. And that's what today is. So we'll start with, most of the local people will know who you are and everything, but, there's people that aren't from around here that listen. So just give them a quick glimpse of like who you are and what life looks like right now. You don't got to go into your whole life story, but just kind of age, what you do, who your family is, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I am Ashlea Jones, historically Ashley Kleitch. I grew up, I mean, we always kind of joke of what side of the river it was on, the Reedland people versus the Fairbank people. So I was on the Reedlandite side to start out with. Got married in 2013 to Cody Jones. He's from the Fairbank side.
Okay, there.
and recruited me over here, I guess. But now I'm 34, he's 34. We've lived around here pretty much our whole lives other than a little stint in Cedar Falls for college.
Okay.
And now have 3 kids. Calvin is 10, Carissa is 5, Carver's right in the middle at 7. So like you said, if we're sitting still, it's like something's wrong.
That's right.
It doesn't happen much.
I know. When you can take a deep breath, it's like, oh, this feels so good.
Yeah.
And you gave me a nickname for one of your kids. What was that?
Did I say Squish?
You said Squish.
That's Carissa K.
Where'd that come from?
Well, when she was a baby, was a Michelin Man. So that was just her nickname, and she has outgrown it, but she's not, we still call her Squish.
Well, if she outgrew it by 5, I was the same way, and I kept it till like 8th grade. I mean, that's true. I was gonna say usually that's a derogatory political term we give a politician when they don't stick to their values or whatever. They're kind of squishy on the issue. I was like, I got to find out what's that for.
Nope,
okay.
It was all the extra love she had when she was a baby.
Okay.
So,
yep.
She only lets a few people call her it now, but some people don't even know her real name just because we've said it.
Well, I got a lot in common with this girl. All right. Yeah. There's a lot of people that don't know my real name is Richard.
Yeah.
That's funny. And you said they're all going to CLS.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. CLS, Community Lutheran, over on the Reedland side.
That's right. Hey, good school. Mm-hmm. Good school. And what does Cody do for a living?
So he is he's actually motor vehicle enforcement. It used to be with the DOT, and then I believe it was like a year and a half ago they merged with the state troopers.
Yeah.
So now he's in like a Charger brown uniform state trooper, but his job within that is still a little bit more specialized.
Okay.
Dealing with the commercial vehicles.
Yeah, that had confused me. I assume he just made like a job change, but no, not really. Okay. All right. And so what's your main focus for work right now?
So I'm a financial advisor. I used to do sales with like mutual funds, life insurance, things like that. Now I'm just strictly on the investment side. My office is down in Cedar Rapids. I've done that for almost 3 years. So just strictly advising people, whether it's someone that's like, hey, I have an old 401k. Will you help me maintain that? Or I have a company and we need to put a 401k in for 100 employees. We do all of it.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's a big fat we. I can't, there's a giant team behind me, which is why I do it.
How often do you go to the office?
Down in Cedar Rapids, anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week, usually.
Okay.
Just depends. I try to bunch all the appointments in one day. And then people up here, friends, family, whatever, if anyone wants to see me up here, I typically just go right to their house.
Oh,
so we're not both driving.
Can't beat that. That's how we do it in the small town Midwest, guys.
Yeah.
That's it. You want personalized service? What's the name of the company?
Prime Capital Financial.
Go see Ashley at Prime. I already lost it.
It's okay. Prime Capital Financial.
Prime Capital. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to leave that where it is. Very good. Very good. Okay, I think that's all I had is kind of, and I'd already mentioned that Cody obviously has a pretty good side gig there too. So,
Yep.
Yeah, because we just pitched another shutout
Yep.
last night, right? My
Yep.
goodness, that guy, has he ever thought about going to the college level?
I have pushed it, but I don't know. It's hard. A lot of those guys need degrees. It'd be a whole series of going back to school and other things, but
He would need a degree?
I
He doesn't just
guess.
have a pedigree?
That's what he tells me. I've never looked into it,
Okay.
but
Well, good.
anytime, yeah.
I don't want him to go.
No,
That's
I know.
fine.
That's
good.
the other pull.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Tell us about your childhood. You talked about you were on one side of for everyone who doesn't know, Wapsie Valley, it's a two-town school district. Fairbank on the east side of the Wapsie, Reedland on the west side, and the school's kind of right in the middle. So that's what she means by that. So tell us what it was like for the Kleitches and that growing up. You said you did a lot of stuff with your dad.
Oh, yeah. So I have one older sister, and then I have two younger siblings, a brother and a sister. But I think by the time I came as the second, my dad wanted a boy. So, which was fine. I just followed all of his footsteps. As a younger girl, I was definitely a tomboy. I wanted to be with him everywhere, in the shop, hunting, whatever. He bought me my first gun when I was 3, a little Daisy BB gun.
Oh, that's where you start.
Yeah, and so he'd let me go pheasant hunting with him, and I would just basically walk right in his footsteps because the grass was too tall, But I'd have my BB gun, and I would think, I'm out here doing something. Yeah. So love that. So my mom was a Coolman. We have a good number of cousins on that side, but we didn't always get together as much.
Yeah.
The Kleitches are a little more over the top. There's over 100 of us now, if we were all to show up at a holiday, and we get together for everything. Every holiday, we have Kleitch camping in the summer. When we were younger and there were less of us, we would get together just for chunks of the year for cousins' birthdays.
Yep.
So some of those cousins are closer to me than my own siblings, just because of that early relationship. So that was very much my growing up experience, and just keeping up with the boys, because that was, a lot of my cousins too.
Right.
But yeah, we were on the Wapsie or the Reedland side, and we all get along, but
Good.
I keep calling
Good.
them sides.
Yeah. So you're related to Brock and Brody then, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So their dad, Rick, is my dad's younger brother.
Okay.
There's 9 of them total. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So if he's your uncle, they're your cousins.
Cousins. Yep.
Yeah. I was
Yep.
gonna say, wow, that's good that you guys are close. I learned a
yeah.
lot of my bad habits from my cousins, so it wasn't good when I was hanging out with them. But those two boys, man, I got just a lot of fond memories of those guys, bumping into them, doing different things with them over the years or whatever. And one of them, I had just mentioned a little story on a recent episode about, I heard them ask their mom for permission to go fishing or something one day. Or I was talking to Mike Benzo, and we were talking about the farm ethic and stuff. And Brock or Brody asked, could we go fishing? That we were out at the school for something, and she said, yeah, when you get home, get your chores done, of course you can go fishing. But it was just funny that that's his reward, is something as simple as going fishing.
Oh yeah.
And then he sent JJ, or he told JJ, I can't remember, sent him a message and said, hey, tell your dad I appreciate the kind word. And I'm just like, that's such a Brock and Brody Kleitch thing to do. I was like, those are just
salt of the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love them.
Yeah, good boys.
Yep.
Good boys. Okay, so what was junior high and high school like out at the Wapsie Valley High School?
So when we started to merge friends, this would actually kind of be where I started to think social work would be where I would go. So we'll have to come back to that. But junior high, started to do sports. We meshed, with the Fairbank kids.
Yep.
So we had our own little cliques of our Reedland friends and Fairbank friends,
Yep.
but started to get to know everybody. That was really when we started to get big into sports. That was actually when I was in high school. Club wasn't a big thing, that was just starting to be a thing.
Club sports?
Yeah. Where, the off-season sports.
Yeah.
So I always showed at fair. I showed at the Bremer County Fair. We showed steers. Again, that was with my cousins. That was my Super Bowl, was the Bremer County Fair. That was my favorite part of the summer. So a lot of the girls that, especially on volleyball and basketball, they did year-round sports or lifting or whatever. And I didn't do any of that. I didn't go to volleyball until it was volleyball, you know?
Yep.
So that was an interesting dynamic compared to God, today, however many years ago that was.
It's different.
Yeah,
it's
like
totally
it's
different.
everyone's involved in everything. But anyway, that was also I would have met Cody before then, but we started dating when we were sophomores.
Okay.
Yeah, and have been together since then.
Boy, that's like me and Sarah.
Yeah.
That's sophomore year. That's good.
Yep.
That's good stuff. Oh, okay. You put in here that obviously you're kind of hinting that you were a tomboy. Okay, I get that. You said a lot like my wife, you were either forced or you wanted to play tackle football with the boys.
Oh yeah, I definitely wanted to.
Okay.
My dad would not let it happen. I did wrestling when I was younger.
Okay.
But then by the time like junior high is when I wanted to go out for tackle football.
Oh, you mean like that? You don't mean in the yard. You
well,
mean...
we would play in the yard as
Yeah,
cousins, but
yeah.
no, I wanted to be on, like, I wanted to go out.
Okay.
I mean, when I was younger, I thought I was going to be, like, the first girl in the NFL. Like, this was, I loved it.
Dreams.
But, yeah,
Dreams.
so, but he was, I mean, a good dad and shut that down.
Yeah.
Because he was just like, you could go have a lot of fun these first couple years, but then, like, at some point it's going to switch.
It's gonna pass.
Yeah, and you're going to get passed, and then you've missed out on so many years of volleyball and whatever. So, you know,
Yep.
that was it.
Yep. Yeah, when we were coaching flag football in Dunkerton, that, like, me and my brother-in-law, we knew 5th and 6th grade, we were picking girls first.
Oh, yeah.
They were taller, faster.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, we'll take her, and then we'll get to you guys
Yeah.
after that, you know. That's just the way it is. But,
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right. And so you were obviously you were into hunting and stuff. You said you were the only girl in the hunting group.
Yep.
How big was, like, is it like a family hunting group? Or?
Yeah, we've merged with another group now. Now it's kind of huge. Anywhere from, I mean, I would say 30 people when it's like opening day of shotgun season.
Yep.
And now a couple other girls have come in, whether it's a girlfriend or, you know, someone that's with somebody. But yeah, it's funny because they treat me like a girl, but not like a girl. Like they'll give each other a hard time if I'm the one walking like the hard part of the timber. You know, like, what is she doing there? She
Yep.
shouldn't be down. But at the same hand, it's like no one's helping if I need to get out a deer. You know,
Yep.
they treat me really good. I love it.
Cool. That's cool. You put something in here that said you always felt weirdly most comfortable in underdog situations. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Where does that kind of mentality come from, or
I
how
don't
do you explain
know.
that?
So when I picked up on that it was, I guess, unique of me, or just that I don't even know why it happens. I was realizing that early in college when I was working, I would only stay somewhere for like 2 years, and then I'd just kind of be bored out of my mind and want something else. Like I just couldn't settle, you know?
Okay.
So I guess that's kind of where I started to track it. Like, why is that? You know, it's like I just get comfortable, and then it's like, what else is out there? You know,
Okay.
that challenge of just constantly learning. Now, as a financial advisor, the world changes every day. Like
Sure.
that, you know, that definitely feeds that.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is. I mean, even younger, if someone said, "Oh, you can't do that," it was like, "Let's go."
Oh,
like
yeah.
that was
Yeah,
my
yeah.
favorite. You know.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know what it is. I also love, and I would say like this is, as a financial advisor, as a mom, as a friend, whatever, empowering people to also feel it. Because I think a lot of people like cut themselves short of potential because of that feeling.
Sure.
And I don't know. I just love that like fire of, if you just believe in it and try, you
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whether it's a new job or, you know, trying out for a sport, getting a starting position, whatever, you know.
Oh, you're speaking my language now.
I
Yeah.
love it.
There's no better feeling than when you surprise yourself and do
Yes.
something you didn't think you could do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do hard things.
That's right. Yeah. See, when I read that, I thought, well, I can kind of relate to that. You said I feel most comfortable in underdog situations. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, if I could relate that to like high school sports, I felt a lot of like fear as a freshman trying to play varsity. And even as a sophomore, I got a little more comfortable. But I noticed I was way more comfortable that sophomore and like junior year because they were still upper class. It's like the pressure isn't on me.
Yeah.
If I perform, I'm going above.
Yeah.
But then senior year came and it's like, no, now you're supposed to lead. And
Now it's the standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a poor like senior year because like I was more comfortable in that, like you said, that underdog role or that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
it's-
probably a lot to that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that once it's expected of you, it's harder to maintain
Yep.
than just like to reach for it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Reach for it. There's
Yeah.
no pressure whether
Yeah.
you do it or not. But yeah, once it's there and expected of you, But you can still learn to manage that. You can.
Still trying.
Yeah. All right. What year did you graduate? So when was high school?
2008.
Okay, boy, that's like right as the first. That was like during the housing recession. That was right when that was the first time Omega laid off ever.
Yeah,
it was 2008. Okay.
2008, 2009. Those were bad years for that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I imagine then to get your degree, you went to college and did stuff. So let's get into those kinds of years. Where'd you start out at? What direction were you going? All that good stuff.
So I went to Hawkeye right outside of right after Wapsie. Went to Hawkeye. I don't remember if I did like gen eds at first. I don't think I did, but it was more for like corrections.
Okay.
And then there was a class that I needed that once I was almost graduated, a class that I needed to finish that degree that was only offered in the spring, and this was in the fall. So I had like 6 months that fall to fill and before I could finish,
Sure.
that AA degree. So that fall, I started to kind of just take more random classes and pick more different things just to kind of open my mind up. I definitely knew that corrections may not be where I want to go anymore once I was that deep into it. So I was just trying to cherry pick some other things that might. I also thought I was going to be a realtor for a while.
Okay.
But that series of years, I lived with friends in Cedar Falls and then also with a cousin at one point. So that was all a lot of fun back when there was no responsibilities.
Wow, yeah. They say college years are supposed to be fun. I spent 3 years at Hawkeye and didn't graduate. I don't know how. That's not possible. I wasn't taking extra classes.
You're trying.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
It was real close. And I even thought about going back here I don't know what that was, 6 years ago. I was like, man, I was like 6 credits away from graduating. Maybe I'll just go back and finish up. I had my internship and I had like a firearms 2 class and I had one elective, which was going to be racquetball. And I called him up and talked to an advisor, and he's like, yeah, we're going to give you like credit for like 25% of those credits. You got to read. I was like, okay, never mind. I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
Never mind. But okay. So how did you get into like sales and marketing, or not marketing, sales and the markets, financial marketing, stuff like that?
So that was all by chance. So starting out, I had an uncle that they sold for, that's where I first worked.
Okay. Yeah.
So Cody, back before we had kids, my husband Cody used to coach football, basketball, baseball, and track. So he was coaching track while I was going through my, questioning if this is really what I want to do.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I had 2 cousins, Ethan Kleitch and Crystal Kleitch, running at track in Hudson.
Okay.
So I had done college and then done school that day and then went to Hudson to watch Cody coach and watch my cousins run. And that my uncle Joe that works for is also my godfather, so he was just doing the godfather conversation of like, how's college going, blah blah blah. Well, I was kind of, I don't know if it's what I want to do. I just, there's no real direction. I'm just finishing because I want to finish, know.
Yep.
And they happened to have a sales meeting in Waterloo that same weekend. So he was like, just come see it, if you're not doing anything else. So I did. I just went and listened to the sales meeting, to their little career seminar.
Okay.
And I was like, sure, let's do this. It was just, as long as you can really talk to people, you can learn the rest of it as you go. It doesn't require a degree. You have to get licensing, but that's it.
Okay.
I don't want to say that's it because it was very hard to get. But from there, that was the first time I was introduced to like the whole be your own boss and run your own schedule and own your own business, kind of feeling. That's very addicting. So that's how I kind of got into sales. It took me 13 months to pass that test, and then I worked there for just over 8 years before I left and just went into the investment side and everything. Okay. So it was very happenstance, not something I was looking for.
You took an invite to sit in on a meeting.
Yeah.
And you kind of thought, okay, I think I'd be interested in doing this.
Yep.
Wow. Man, yeah, I don't know. I listen to people talk about that, and I'm not an idiot, but I'm not like super smart like you guys about it, but I kind of understand how some of that works. And I made the biggest mistake. We were talking about 2008. So like I had been at Omega for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years at that point. I think I started in 2002. So I had been there 6 years. Probably didn't start my 401k right away. Me and Sarah were young. Mm-hmm. You need every dollar you can on your paycheck when you're starting out, especially back then. But say a few years in, I started putting in my 401k, and then a few years after that, 2008 hits, and I start watching that number, which wasn't huge, but that number's going down like as fast as I'm putting money in, that number's going down. And there was no one there to tell me,
it's okay.
Don't panic.
Yeah.
Every dollar you're putting in, you're still buying shares, and you're buying them lower and lower and lower. So I just freaked out, and I was like, I'm not wasting my money. This is stupid. So in 2008, I stopped. And I mean, I missed a lot of years because I left Omega in 2017, and I had just started putting back in like a few years prior to that. So, I mean, that's a solid, 5 years probably that I just didn't put anything in. And that set me back quite a bit, I guess. But, I wish there was someone there that had told me, no, especially when you're young, you're in those markets that are just meant to, hey, get in as much as you can now, but it's going to build up nice and slow. But once it gets up to those higher numbers, it goes so fast. Yeah. You don't got to worry about the numbers now. You got time to ride the waves up and down. And
you're absolutely right about the panic like that. I remember being in my parents' living room in 2008 and my dad talking about his 401k and it was just draining. And my mom was like, well, we should get out. And he was like, I can't afford to. Like, that, it's already down below what I'm willing to forfeit. And then he said something about like how it's cheaper. And that's probably the first time in my head, like I didn't take a finance class. I never did anything with it in high school or college or anything. But that was the first time that I was like, oh, what is this? Like, it sounded kind of like they were talking about gambling, but it was like, I'll never make it all back if I stop, so you have to just like, eat it, and a lot of stuff we do with planning, we can mitigate that. But I mean, when you talk about panic, like a client popped right in my head. Like there's still some people that it's just, they just got to talk to somebody just to like get it out of their brain and out of their chest. And then, we can mitigate it. But you are definitely not alone in that feeling.
Right, man. But you said you're kind of driven with this desire to help others then. Like I can just tell by the way you're talking about that. If you had been in HR at Omega, you probably would have said, yeah, Bubba, don't panic. This is, I mean, it's not good what's happening, but this is what the markets do. So do you think a lot of people in your field are in it for that reason? They want to help others? Because I listen to Dave Ramsey a lot, and there's some things I don't agree with him. I'm not saying he knows everything. He's done everything wrong is what I like about him. He's gone bankrupt. He's come back, and his whole like his whole like system on getting out of debt, like it works. Like me and Sarah did it before I ever knew who Dave Ramsey was. It was just common sense. Don't spend money you don't have. Don't eat out at a restaurant if you're in debt and you're trying to get out of debt. And once you pay off one debt, take that money, roll it. I mean, it's just common sense. But he recommends these financial advisors that are the kind, I'm not trying to bash anybody at all, but the kind that don't make money unless you make money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you say, hey, I'm just in it to help others, obviously plan for their future and things like that. Do you think a lot of people are in it like because they're like Gordon Gekko on Wall Street type, like they just want to make money for themselves? Or do you think, I guess what I'm trying to say is, are you kind of like the rarity in the business, or is there more good-natured people in there that are wanting to do good?
I think there's definitely more good-natured people than like the stigma.
Okay.
It's definitely like you don't get into it. So, I mean, full disclosure, when I decided to leave, I actually went and worked at TrueServe for a little while in Reedland.
Yeah.
I had a 3-year non-compete I had to deal with. I couldn't touch investments for a while after I left.
Wow.
So I went to TrueServe and did trucking insurance, which was a whole different
that's
rodeo.
Not the same thing.
No. So I went and got my property and casualty license, did some sales with there. I kind of partnered with a guy where I would bring leads in. He would close them. Like we had a little dance going on there that worked for both of us.
Okay.
And then when this opportunity came up, this was placed in my lap. This was not something I was even sure I wanted to do. I don't even know if I was really considering it. But when that happened and we talked about like the differences between being a fee-based advisor and a commission-based like sales representative, it's a whole different type of marriage.
Sure.
There's things that even when I was at there, I don't want to say it in a bad way, but it was like, it's all production driven. So it's like, get the check, get the check, get the check. Like if they say no, it's like, Okay, well, how do you rebuttal that? Like,
Yeah.
that's all part of sales training.
Sure.
Where now there's none of that. It's like, you come to me because you need a second set of eyes on things, and then like we're holding hands together through the whole process.
Okay.
That is so much more, I don't know, fulfilling. You know, there's a guy just sent us something this weekend and said he was offered equity in his company and wanted us to look at it and give us an opinion on it. Like, that wasn't a transaction. We just did that. Like, here's, you know, just knowing your situation. Here's what we think. We're not going to advise on it, but here's the pros and cons from our point of view. And he was like, thank you for your time, you know? So we're fiduciary, which legally means we have to act in the best interest of the client.
Okay.
But I've always just felt gross having to explain that. Like, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, you think
like,
that's
my dad would slap me if I didn't. You know what I mean? Like,
basic
but,
ethics.
Yeah.
And you have to disclose it.
There's absolutely a difference when it's like commission based. You know, again, I'm not trying to throw names under the bus, but like is one that it's like their mothership tells them what to sell.
Yeah.
They don't care if it's good for Bubba, good for Ashley, good for whatever. It's because this is the thing that they're supposed to sell at this time.
Yeah.
You know, and I even went through that. Like, we had one product and we tried to fit people into that, you know, and we didn't hurt people.
Sure.
You know, it never hurts to save some money regardless of what you're putting it in.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, having like a whole toolbox now where it's like, you come to me and tell me what you need, and then I go to the toolbox and grab the things we need to fill those gaps. Whole different rodeo.
That sounds good.
So much better, you know? So I
Yeah.
do think a lot of people enter it that way, but there's still high commission products like annuities and things out there that are absolutely sold for the wrong reason. 24/7. Like, people come into our office and we're just apologizing for things we didn't do.
Yeah.
And it was just either because they don't care or because they didn't have anything else. That was all they had to sell, so they sold it, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd say it's probably half and half. I'm typically more optimistic than to think someone's out there trying to screw someone over, but there's no doubt they're out there.
Right. Yeah. Or they're just towing the company line and kind of.
Like just surviving, pushing a sale because that's what they have to get to qualify for the trip, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's nice to not have any of those external pressures anymore.
Well, yeah. And that makes sense to me then. If you meet with someone, and because I remember, I think over last Christmas break, I made a few phone calls, and that's like the worst thing you can do, because once you do a couple things online, like, they are going to hound you.
Yes.
Like, I still have people from Thrivent or whoever, and I know their names because I'm always getting their emails and stuff, and they're like, hey, whenever your needs come up again, because all I asked was like just for some explanation or something, and now they won't leave me alone. But like, it makes sense. Okay, on one side, this person's gonna get what'd you say, like commission based? One's like productivity based and one's commission based or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have like a fee for them to guide you or advise you,
Yeah.
no matter what happens, up or down with your balance.
Yep.
The other one, if you do well, they do well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I mean, that could still hurt you, but it's only gonna hurt you if you start doing really, really well.
Yeah.
They're gonna get a little bit more. It's kind of like you're putting skin in the game, even though you're not,
Absolutely.
but you are.
Yeah.
Because you want them to do so well, so you get more. It just makes sense to me. To me, that's kind of common sense.
And it's also, so like, there's also, I'm trying to think of what it's called. I think it's the best interest clause. If you are a registered representative, you're held to a best interest clause. That's only at the point of the sale. So if I sell you something and I get paid a commission, we kind of go our separate ways. You know, you might still be my client, but I'm not hinged to anything else. Like, if I did the best I could, I wiped my hands, and, you know, fiduciary is for the lifetime.
Okay.
So if it's like, we sit down and here's what's best for you today, and then you call me and life has changed, it's a brand new starting point.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
we have to make sure. So again, if the market goes up or down, there's still a fee that pulls. It's just like an annual based on assets under management.
Okay.
But so I've been there for almost 3 years, and we've never had to apologize for that. Like, it's not just whether or not we can outperform what you can do on your own, but it's like all of that other stuff, the question about private equity and the question about, should I take my Social Security or not?
Yeah.
You know, it's just having that ear where it's like, there's no, you know, transaction fees or no this nickel and diming. So they're not afraid to pick up the phone. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
So then they're not afraid to pick up the phone and say, like, hey, I'm rolling this thing in my head. Would you help me think out loud?
Yeah.
They, you know, that's also part of the fee. You know what I mean? It's just having that like coach or cheerleader or whatever to be in it with you.
Man, that sounds good. That sounds like the avenue a lot of us need to be going when it comes to our financial future and investments and retirement and all that stuff. I don't see a downside to that.
It's very intimidating. People, you have to be vulnerable to open up, and for a lot of people, they come in and they say, "Oh, it's not much." It doesn't matter if it's 200 grand or 2 million.
I said that when I called him over. I was like, it's not a ton of money we're talking about, dude. Don't start foaming at the mouth.
No, but that's how everyone feels. They're like, they think, I screwed up, or I don't have much. And but I think it's easy as a woman too. I'm just like, I don't care. Like do you like me? Do I like you? Do we want to work together?
Yeah.
Where are you at? Where do you want to go? Let's get there.
So you don't care if they got, I'm just going to throw numbers out, but let's say they got like 45, 50,000. You don't see that as like, that ain't much. You see that as, if I can help them get to 400,000, 500, it's like that.
I would say that when you ask the question about people that are in it for more money, some will not spend their time on those clients. And I don't think it's even it's not a personality thing. It's more they just don't have the time. It's like I have my own clients that I need to focus on, so I can't pick up every $50,000 client. So it's also not necessarily that they're greedy people. But I want that door to be open.
Sure.
Like, and from my end, you just never know. I might have someone give me a $10,000 rollover, and then grandpa passes away and gives them the farm. I mean, I've tripped over things like that, but they came to me because I treated them as a human rather than as their assets, you know?
Yeah.
And so I try my best. Like, of course, if someone comes in and they say I have $10 million, it's like, let's get this done, But
without,
it is.
Without showing them.
Yeah. But it is like, I hope for everyone to feel the same when they walk out. Like, I don't want you to be afraid to come back in and ask questions,
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I don't know if we always accomplish it, but that's the goal.
That's good. That's good. I listened to the Unashamed podcast. So like Jace Robertson from Duck Dynasty, he's always kind of talking. He doesn't go in depth about it, but he makes it known he handles his own portfolio. And I'm just like, well, man, how? And nowadays with the different apps, with Robinhood and with all these different things, and me and Sarah don't do too much. We know just enough to probably get ourselves in trouble, but it's like, I would much rather talk to someone with experience than do stuff on my own. Like, I understand the basics. I get in that low risk, long term 401k because, when I was 20, I was like, I got a long time to go. That's fine. But what do you say to the people that are like a Jace Robertson and they don't talk to anybody? They just have educated themselves enough. They think they understand the markets. They think they know how much Apple and Oracle and whatever they need, or they, what's the upside? If someone's willing to go at it themselves, what's the upside and downside of that as opposed to going with somebody like you for help?
First of all, that's okay. I mean, I compare it to like, if you put me and my dad next to each other and say there's an electrical issue in my house, my dad will fix it by himself. I will call an electrician because I have no confidence in that.
Yep.
And when he comes and fixes our electricity, because I don't call an electrician, I call my dad. When he comes, he kind of gives me a hard time that I could learn this. And it's just like, it's not something I trust myself with. Like the risk of me messing up and my house starting on fire is not worth my ego of I can do this alone. So it's all something different. Now, if it's changing tires, I don't need anyone for that. I know how to do that. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I see it. That's okay. Sometimes those people will eventually graduate into needing someone for different reasons. Like we have a lot of older gentlemen that will reach out when they start to get to retirement age. And it's just because like my wife doesn't know crap about any of this. And I've done it my whole life. And I just want something like if something happens to me, that she can come to someone.
Okay.
So a lot of times we inherit assets just because of that. Okay. It's not that they do a poor job of managing or don't have confidence in it. It's just like, I'm not going to be here for forever.
Yeah.
Or even I'm going to retire and I want to sit at the beach and not look at the stock market. I'm done thinking about it,
Yep.
So everyone's a little different. But again, if they say that, that's what's beautiful about like it's okay. Like, okay, go do that then. Let me know if you have any questions.
But I mean, I guess I'm not trying to force you into an answer, but like, how realistic is it if I just, I could spend all night tonight on the internet, just searching and looking, and you're going to get a pretty good understanding of the markets and
Yeah.
just kind of a basics, but there's got to be a much bigger upside to than just do. I think, aren't you kind of risking a lot by just doing everything yourself? Like there's gonna be growing pains, there's gonna be lessons learned the hard way kind of thing, or you can go with an advisor.
Yeah, I can see both sides. That's really all a personality thing. That, like you said, a lot of people, if you got into NVIDIA a year and a half ago, then you probably whooped a lot of people's butts that hire an advisor to diversify their portfolio. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, or someone who got into Bitcoin when it was $200. Yeah. And then it was 60 grand. Yeah. Like, they're going to look like, see, I didn't need you. You know what I mean? And that's okay, like I said. But I just think that it's bigger than what people understand. A lot of people have the face value of just like, well, I can get X amount of return on my own. And I just don't feel like that's like barely a percentage of what we do, Yeah. Now with us, so I'm the advisor. I work very closely with a guy named Joe Harris. He's brought me into this and is my mentor and everything. Okay. He's actually related to your neighbors. Denny and Mary Kay are his in-laws. Right. So you may see him around. But anyway, we've worked together for almost 15 years. He ran the company that I was at before. Okay. So anyway, trust is there, loyalty's there, like none of that, we know each other, know our pros and cons and everything. But, so when someone works with us, you get me, you get him. And then also behind the scenes is like 15 different people. There's also another guy, his name's Taylor. That's our financial planner. So he does a lot of like the data input and things that we don't have like the patience for. We just want to go talk to people. Yep. So Taylor's awesome too. He handles a ton of the stuff. He's also an advisor, but handles a lot more of the process stuff that, again, I just don't have the patience for. Yeah. And then we have an entire team that watches the market on their own. So even though I'm a financial advisor and I handle my own account, but I don't love it. It's just like, to your point, you can go on the internet and make an argument for anything. Yeah. Someone could tear my portfolio apart and say, well, this is not, and this is good. And this, you should be, it's just like, it's too much noise, Yep. So with those guys, so the guys that are on our team, like they're on Fox News and CNBC, they have all the alphabet soup behind their names. Yep. So they know, and they're human. They'll make mistakes too. Sure. It's not perfect. But I've always argued that having more people, looking at it, just no single points of failure, yep. Like a military thing.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's what's nice about it. But there are plenty of people who go out there and they kick butt and do their own portfolio,
That's crazy to me.
And it might be now they need someone to help just with tax planning or loss harvesting or whatever it is. So eventually they call and ask, but there's a lot of guys out there that have a lot of time on their hands. And
I think those guys can. Yeah. Like Jace Robertson now, after Duck Dynasty, after, they're very wealthy. Like, you could use a hobby. You could afford to learn a few lessons the hard way. Yeah. Jace Robertson before, when he was splitting wood and making duck calls,
didn't have time.
You're going to have an Ashlea Jones handle that kind of stuff or advice. You're not going to.
That's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Okay, so just to vent a little bit, like when it comes to investments and stuff, Sarah's been getting into these CDs, and I just look at her and I'm like, if you guys are into CDs, great. I know that sometimes there is a time to do it based on the interest rate and all that stuff, but like our church, like I'm on the deacon board, and so we start looking at a CD. We're talking about putting like 10 grand in it or whatever, and then we call a few of the different banks and we find out, what rates we can get for what length of time. Sarah wants to do a CD. We don't have the kind of money the church has. I make it sound like our church is super wealthy. It's not at all. But and she's willing to lock up, what I would think is, we get a sick kid or something, like I don't want that money locked up for a year or 18 months or something like that. But it is going to be locked up all to make like $150 in 2 years. Like I'm like, Sarah, and I just tell her, I'm like, do you realize how many times you got to roll that over to like gain one paycheck? I'm just like, come on. I don't think if we got like 10, 20 grand to put in a CD, now we're talking, but we don't. Yeah. So, what do you kind of think about the CDs?
So they're definitely a fit. Again, you'd be surprised how much people don't care about what makes financial sense. It's emotional, so if it's just that fear, like, I just don't want to go into the market. And it's like, well, the market's up 20 some % for the year. And it's like, I don't care. I do not want to see it go down. You know?
Yeah.
There's also the money market, which I have learned a ton of people don't know about. So like our money market, when interest rates were at their highest, was up to like 5.27%. And that's daily liquid compared to the CDs where they sometimes weren't even at the same interest rate and you had to tie it up.
Yep.
So again, everyone's different, liquidity needs, whatever, but that almost comes down to a risk factor. They don't care. Like
Okay.
I'd rather only make $1 than fear losing 2 or 3, you know?
Yeah.
So we work them in, you know, I have a couple that they own a business. They're wealthy. They're well off. They're great people, but he is more of a risk taker. He'll go into the market
Okay.
and she's like, if you can guarantee me 5% and no loss, like I'll do somersaults, you know?
Okay.
And so next to each other in our reviews, they've always kind of had this little race, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like either way they win, but it's always like who made more. Well,
Yeah.
if the market's down, you know, she's like, told
She
ya.
did good.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. She played it
So,
safe.
yeah, but she just cannot handle that volatility where he's more understanding of like it's part of the game,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So
okay.
there's almost every time we have a husband and wife in, one of them is typically the female's more conservative and the guy is like, you know, let it grow, let it, you know,
Wow. Yeah.
almost always.
There you go. There's some insider information for you guys right
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Okay. I got a few different things here. I'll just throw them out at you and to the audience. These are complete surprises to her. They're just one word, and I'm just going to say, what do you think about this? And we'll see what she says. Crypto. Like, what even is it? To be honest, me and Sarah, we're like, what?
I know.
The one dude just went to jail
Yeah.
for a while, and then I find out like another guy just went to jail. The other Sam Bankman-Fried, and then like the other guy at that company just went away, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what is it really? Like, I thought I understood Bitcoin. I thought
Yeah.
Bitcoin was a part of crypto, and I thought it
Yes.
was all like digital currency.
Yeah.
But now I don't know.
There's
what.
just too much. I think it's still so early. I'm not shutting the door on its potential. There's definitely people out there that are like hungry for that access. Even like Fidelity has an ETF that now they'll let people invest in like a 401k plan that you can go in and purchase crypto in a 401k plan, which for some people is just insane to consider, you know. But it's just, to your point, there's not enough. The whole advantage of crypto is that it's not regulated, that it's all on this, you know, platform where
Okay.
everyone can see it.
Okay.
But it's like, until it's regulated, how do you know?
Does it
like,
have value?
yeah, and there's just, I mean, you could come out with a crypto coin right now. You know, if you go on there, like the Doge one from Elon Musk or whatever that was out for a while, and
Yeah.
Ethereum and Bitcoin, and they're just, I don't see, to me, when Russia invaded Ukraine a couple years ago and the stock market fell, when that all fell with it, it was like, then what are we doing here? You know,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be uncorrelated.
Oh yeah, that
And-
makes sense.
and it wasn't.
but it was affected.
Yeah, now that the longer term like has shown, when the
Okay.
market's up, so is crypto, and when the market's down, so is crypto. So I just don't see the value in taking the extra risk just to get the same type of return.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
definitely as an advisor, we're not. It's like if someone comes in and brings it up, we might touch on it, but it's like let's just wait. There's other
Let's
places we can go.
Yeah, stick with what works.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. There we go. How about inflation? How does inflation, like, obviously inflation just went crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty much since 2020, we noticed the houses. We noticed it, like, obviously everyone noticed it in groceries and stuff like that because they were introducing money into the economy and stuff like that. But like the houses just so quickly spiraled out of control
Yeah.
for young people. Even us right now, we're just like, if we were to sell, we probably couldn't buy
Yeah.
another one. How does inflation, like, how does that affect the markets and what you do?
It definitely affects it. So between inflation and interest rates, it's crazy the way it changes human behavior. You know, we can have someone come in and take like a risk tolerance survey, and they'll say, oh, I'm really risky, like put me in something aggressive. Mm-hmm. And then when inflation goes up and they come in a year later, it's like, well, let's just be conservative. You know, they're just thinking more about stretching their dollar.
Yep.
So it's hard. I'm a big believer in just control what you can control. Like to
Yeah.
your point, saving $1 is better than not saving anything.
Yeah.
So it's really hard when people who are already struggling also get hit with inflation. You know, I just don't
Yeah.
know how they make it. And some of these people, like in 401k meetings and different things, they'll talk to us about it we just have one-on-one meetings where they can ask anything, budgeting questions, whatever. And it's crazy how much they'll open up, you know, and just be vulnerable about, like, they're just being crushed, you know?
Yeah.
So there is one little thing that I've, like, tried to leave people with as an outsider that it helps is just, this is going off the topic of inflation. It's more budgeting, but it helps for times like these, that go open a separate account and have, like, your automatic deposit, have a sliver go into that separate account that you don't see.
Yeah.
You know, so then when crap hits the fan, whether it's inflation or the market or whatever it is, you have that honey hole saved.
Sure.
Or maybe even it's for Christmas presents or a family vacation. But we're just bad behavior humans.
Yeah.
You know, like, if it's there, it's burning a hole in our pocket.
Yep.
It's really hard to have that discipline.
Yep.
You know, so that's kind of how I've tried to help people kind of inflation proof themselves. Is like, you know, whether it's $50 a check, $100, maybe $10 a check, whatever it is, that you've already kind of built that into your budget. So now if all of a sudden things get tight, you can go, oh, well, shut off that $50 a check, and right there's $100 more in your bank account, you know? Yeah. Just things like that. I don't know. I'm trying to go problem solve.
No,
but, like, inflation
is
it just sucks, but it's never going to go away. Like, you have to adapt.
Oh, yeah. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
It just...
Sometimes
these
high,
moments when it
sometimes-
went so fast, it was just like, holy cow.
Yeah.
You know, I'm telling my daughter and her husband, I'm like, you guys don't got to worry about buying a house.
Yeah.
Don't even think right now. Don't even worry about it.
Get, like, an RV and park it in the yard.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep. But people are still buying. It's crazy.
Yeah.
With the high interest rates, I traveled for work. I went to New York City in August. That airport was full.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it's slowing people down, but not all of them.
Right. I know. I'm just waiting for gas to come back down. Like, with the truck that was parked out there when you pulled up, like, Timothy drove that to school for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then once we got him a car, or, you know, we split a car with him or whatever, that truck was supposed to go to him. He drives Sarah's Traverse to school because that only gets 14 miles a gallon. And you can't do that. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, one more. Gold. I hear a lot of talk about gold, and a lot of the investment people I talk to, they just, and everything on Fox News, everything's an ad. I mean, they say gold is not going to lose its value. If anything, it continues to get, gold and silver, but usually the commercials on podcasts and stuff are for gold. And they say, if you want to stop, you know, the depreciation, you know, you're devaluing and all that stuff, say get some gold. What do you say about that?
So it does have some, you know, tangible asset to it, and for, like, a sliver of someone's portfolio, it's fine.
Okay.
Gold and all precious metals absolutely suck as a long-term investment.
Oh,
like,
okay.
since the beginning of time, it's like 1% if you really put it all on paper.
Okay.
Now, there are things like sector funds where they'll just choose, like, the top sectors in the market, and I'll see precious metals sneak up in there once in a while, but it's usually when everything else is, like, not doing well. So it's the top sector, but it's just because everything else is in the red, you know? So again, it is, like, for something, I would compare it to, like, a CD. Like, of course, you know, the value is less volatile than if it was into the market.
Right.
But if it's at, like, I want to put this aside to really grow it because I want it to be a bigger number than it is today, you just, you know, again, that's a blanket statement, but, like, that's not going to do it for you.
No, I see what you mean. It rose to the top at those moments because everything else fell.
Yeah.
It didn't necessarily rise. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
Just like putting it under your mattress.
I swear,
it's fine.
I see that William Devane on Fox News. All he's saying, he's splitting wood out in his cabin. And he's like, I'm only doing this because I invested in gold. And it's like, well, maybe I should get some.
Yeah.
But then I realized I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
So.
But it's definitely, my cousin, he's the godchild to Calvin. Like, he gives him a little piece of silver every year for his birthday.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's fun, and it will absolutely hold value, you know, at the end and everything. But it's not like, here, you'll have $1 million when you're 18,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
It goes in spurts.
And that's what I think people with the whole crypto thing and Bitcoin and all, I think they just thought, if I can get in this, I'm
just
so far,
instant richness. Yeah.
And that's what we want. And it's like you said, like, if we have it, it's burning a hole in our pocket, even no matter what the markets are. It's like, maybe we need to bring back a layaway.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I can remember my mom talking about that. It's like, no, you didn't. You had to have, like, really good credit to have a credit card.
Yeah.
And so if you didn't, you'd go to Kmart, and that Christmas present, your mom would actually put on layaway.
Yeah.
And she'd make payments on it and then get it.
Pick it up.
Not get it
Not
and
the
make
other way.
payments on it. And it's just like, man, I seriously, and in more avenues than one. We're talking financial stuff.
Yeah.
But I think morally, I think culture, I think
agree.
everything. If we can go backwards a little bit,
I agree.
That's actually the way to go forward.
There's a book I'm reading right now or listening to on Audible, and it's called Endure by Cameron Haynes. And he's not very popular, I guess, unless you're an elk hunter or like a big runner, which I'm not either.
Okay.
But his mindset, I learned about him because his saying is nobody cares, work harder.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, get that tunnel vision, like whether you just had the best day of your life or the worst day of your life, like nobody cares. Just do what you can do, control, and get back to work and keep hammering. And he talks about that too, and just the way it's like everyone wants something now. Like we suck as a civilization with like patience and
instant gratification.
Yeah, hard work, determination. Like we try and then fail and then give up, you know? And even with my kids, it's like, if you can get used to that failure feeling, like you'll be the cream of the crop, you know, just if you're good at not turning away every time it gets hard, you know?
Yeah.
But God, those credit cards, we were in Shields. I had to buy a gun for my boys to take them youth hunting. And they were like, oh, if you sign up for this credit card, it'd be this dollar amount, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, we have one credit card and we pay it off every week.
Yep.
But I was like, okay, I mean, we're buying them stuff for sports all the time. We're in Shields more and more. The older they get, we'll sign up for it. That thing was approved and in my hand in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is the interest rate on this? Like and they just left you to your own devices. Like I had to go download the app, connect my bank. I had to figure that all out on my own.
Really?
No one was there to be like, hey, make sure you pay this off or make sure it's hooked up to your email or whatever. When I finally called, it was 32% interest.
Oh, man. I think when we got ours, it was like 25.
Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have like gone out of my way to set it all up and ask those questions, like my kids in college or, you know, if they get older, we're sitting in the car and I'm like, don't ever do what I just did.
Right. Yeah.
Like say no.
I think I've shared that with people before. Bridget asked one question about interest one night on the couch in high school. And she said, I just learned more than I did in high school about personal finance and stuff like that. And it's like, so when it comes to the credit cards, it's like we told them, you know, we got in credit debt and all that stuff. And once we got it paid off, we said, that's it, we're done. No more. And then even car loans, we try not to have a car loan. Like, I don't care if we don't have, you know, a newer one or, you know, our Traverse is a 2013 and leaks oil. Like, so what?
Yeah.
But the Shields card, like for me, it started out with the Cabela's card and you get the points. And I'm like, okay, so it's not real. We're not going to use it like a credit card. We're going to pay it off every month. We're only going to buy things with it that we're going to buy gas. We're going to buy groceries. We're not buying, you know, other
spending
stuff.
more than you would otherwise.
Yeah. We're using it for necessary expenses. And then you start seeing those points build up. Well, now I can go get a new hunting coat. Now I can get this. And then eventually, like finally I had enough hunting stuff. It's like, I'm pretty good. I don't really need that anymore.
Even doing?
And now the kids are asking for stuff they need cleats. They need a backpack. They need this. And it's like, well, the Shields card's available. So I guess, okay, so we don't use the Cabela's card and we're done with that. Now we go to the Shields card and now we get these gift cards in the mail. Like every, you know, I just got a $50 one today. And it's I got like $300 sitting in a cup upstairs. And it's like, that's kind of the way to make, that's how, if you're going to do credit, that's the way to treat it like it's your own cash, using things you need, and make sure it's a card that works for you, gives you something in return. Because back in the day, they didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Now it's so competitive. And have some discipline.
Absolutely, you got to have discipline. My goodness, don't use credit. Don't use it. That's what Dave Ramsey says. He goes, your goal should be to have a credit score of like 850 or 0. That's it. That's it.
You're right.
You shouldn't be needing it or playing. He goes, man, if you can get to that point, you can live and give like no one else. And that's what I love about him too. So
I think I would be better. I'm way fine for like myself and maybe even a little for Cody, but it is so hard with kids. I would have thought I would have been way more strict than I can hold up with like them needing things.
Okay.
And needing nice things. You know, it's like, it's not that they need the Nike pair of cleats, but like, they did grow out of them and it is a good deal, you know, and pretty soon we're like sucked into that and it's so hard to shut it off. Like they have this expectation, you know, they're just naturally ungrateful and always, and you know, mom, can I have is like, they've said it 100 times by 9 a.m. You know?
So like Ryan Nesbitt sat in that chair and he's like, do we really need to have 72 Jessup Jayhawk hooded sweatshirts
Right.
just because it's a new
Right.
season or
Because
whatever.
it's this season. Yeah.
I'm cleaning up his room the other day, just straightening up a little bit for him while he was gone. And I find like 6 Wapsie sweatshirts.
Yes.
And I'm like, I haven't seen him wear these in a long time. A nice lifting jacket with his name like
Yeah.
sewn in it. I'm like, I don't think I've seen him wear that
Yeah.
thing ever.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
But like, I can remember you said TrueServe earlier, and that just made me think. So
Yeah.
who hired you at TrueServe?
Ben Hogan. Ben and JC own it.
Ben and JC.
Yep.
JJ tells me he's going out for wrestling, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a couple years. I was like,
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. You know, can you? I text Coach Crawl. I was like, hey, you got some like used shoes I can buy or something? I know they always have stuff like that. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh yeah, we'll hook them up. I was like, I'm gonna make sure this is actually gonna last before I go
Before
drop
you deposit the
80,
money.
$100 on
Yeah.
a pair of wrestling shoes or whatever. Next thing I know, Ben Hogan he's like, hey, Caleb had these, you know, they're like
Yeah.
brand new.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure. What do you want from me? Like, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Ben and JC Hogan, man, just good people.
Oh, for sure.
Good. I don't know. For some reason, I was like, I got to sneak that in there. They're just always doing things like that for people. And they never want credit or ask for credit. But
Yeah. Calvin actually just rode the bus home with the players last night and sat with Caleb. And
Okay.
like Caleb was just sitting there watching film, and we were just
Yep.
talking about how like
Yeah.
there's certain people you want to gravitate towards, and that's not a bad one to
Oh,
gravitate
absolutely.
towards. Like, good choice, Calvin.
absolutely. Definitely.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the kids are so hard. Like it's just, I would have thought, like, I would have said no to sports this early. I would have thought, you know, as
Yeah.
younger me. But between all the like, oh, my friend's going out, or it's so hard to be the person to be like, sorry about your luck. Like, that's not, you know,
Yeah.
we're not doing that today.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And those,
that's harder for me for money than anything. Like,
Sure.
you know, I want to do this or I want to try this. And it's like, well, then we need the singlet, or we need the,
Yep.
they don't care that I dropped $100 to register them. They're
Nope.
like, okay, never mind. I don't like it. And you're just like, you
No.
want to shake them.
I know. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
But
That's
yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I think that's pretty good for part one. I think we just hit the hour mark probably. So that'll do it for part one with Ashlea Jones. I hope her experience and her story, maybe it was her childhood upbringing and stuff like that you enjoyed, or maybe it was that super in-depth conversation with a couple of just financial wizards, like, well, she, not me, I guess, but you know, maybe that stuff encouraged you guys a little bit. Everyone's got a story to tell or experience to share. We let people share just what life has been like for them and what kind of experiences they have. So, but this isn't the end of her episode. There will be a part 2 next week. We'll get into her segments, have some laughs, and we may also get into some more serious topics. I'm not going to tell you guys what she picked, but you might want to come back and check it out. You don't want to miss it, okay? Thank you guys for listening so much. It means a lot to us. Please be sure to like, follow, subscribe wherever you listen. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Leave us a 5-star rating. Even if you don't think we're 5-star, just go ahead and leave it. It's going to take you 2 seconds to hit that button. Okay? Click that bell for notifications of new episodes. I try and drop every Friday morning, 5 a.m. Most of you long-term listeners know why I do 5 a.m. Okay? Follow our Instagram and our Facebook for more reels and pictures and just encouraging stuff. Share with all your friends on your social media. Show off your impeccable taste by sporting some of our merch. I know you want some of this What Is Up merch. We're not trying to make money. Guys, you get this stuff at cost. It's just for advertising. I'm not doing this as a side hustle. This is something I feel like I should be doing. Email me your questions, comments, guest ideas, segment ideas. whatisuppodcast@gmail.com. If you need help with anything or you want to maybe know more about some of what we talked about today, go ahead and reach out. I'll respond to you. I'll help any way I can. If I need to get you in touch with Ashlea, if you got questions for her, we can make that happen. Okay? Lord willing, I'll talk to you on the next one.